Dozens have been killed after a fire broke out at a coronavirus hospital in Iraq on Monday. That's according to health officials and police, who said the fire was likely caused by an oxygen tank explosion. The incident occurred in the southern city of Nasiriyah. Health officials there said the fire had been brought under control, but they also said thick smoke was making it difficult to maneuver in the building. One health worker told Reuters that many patients were trapped in the coronavirus ward, with rescue crews struggling to reach them. The office of Iraq's Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi said in a statement he was holding urgent meetings with senior ministers and has ordered the suspension and arrest of health and civil defense managers in the city. The statement said that also included the hospital manager. Iraq, which has suffered from years of war and sanctions, frequently sees accidents due to underinvestment, corruption, and wrecked infrastructure.
There are some in South Africa who think this is a political protest. But there were no placards on display in the township of Alexandra. Instead, we witnessed a battle for control waged by police officers using tear gas and rubber bullets, and hundreds of rioters who had taken the opportunity to plunder. And this small detachment were hopelessly outnumbered. Unable to clear the area, the police pushed out, then retreated as the looters grabbed what was left on the shelves. Everything in this shopping mall of any value has been removed over the course of one furious evening, but there are still people picking through the ruins, looking for anything of value, if they can find it. And this game of cat and mouse comes with terrible risks. Down on Watt Street, there was a man lying motionless on the pavement, one of 6 people to lose their lives since the violence began. These disturbances were triggered last Thursday after the arrest of the country's former president, Jacob Zuma, at his home in KwaZulu-Natal. And what began as a series of demonstrations in that province has turned into something far more unpredictable. Shops and shopping malls have been ransacked or destroyed. And lorries on the highway between Durban and Johannesburg have been torched. The government says it's now ready to bring in the army.
After over 2 hours of heavy fighting, all ammunition spent, Afghan commandos walk out with hands in the air. Surrender, commandos, surrender, yells a Taliban member. But the rules of war don't exist on this battlefield. Seconds later, more than a dozen members of the elite special forces have been executed. The Red Cross confirmed the bodies of 22 commandos were retrieved. A villager pleads with the Taliban to stop shooting, asking, "How are you Pashtun and you're killing Afghans?" CNN has spoken to 5 eyewitnesses to this massacre, which occurred last month in Jalalabad, a district of Faryab province in northern Afghanistan. All confirm these events took place.
Shouting, pushing and shoving. The scene in Georgia's parliament on Monday. Scuffles broke out as journalists and opposition politicians tried to enter the lower house to protest the death of a journalist, beaten up during violence against LGBT activists. The majority were turned away by security, but some did get through, sparking chaos. Cameraman Alexander Lashkarova was badly hurt, along with several other journalists, as violent groups ransacked an LGBT+ campaign office last week, prompting activists to call off their Pride March. He was later found dead at his home by his mother, according to the channel he worked for, TV Perveli. It did not disclose the cause of his death, and neither have police.
The U.S. teams are on the ground right now helping to investigate the assassination and also assessing the interim government's request for help in keeping the streets calm here, all as new details are emerging about the attack.
Overnight, a Florida doctor arrested and accused of being a key player in the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moise. The interim chief of police alleging that 63-year-old Haitian national Christian Emmanuel Sanon planned to assume the presidency and allegedly hired Colombian nationals through a U.S.-based security firm under the pretext they would be his bodyguards. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security now has agents on the ground. Authorities have arrested at least 20 suspects in the killing of President Moise, including 2 Americans. Haitian officials are hoping to uncover more answers.
Following a meeting in Brussels between Israel's Foreign Minister Yair Lapid and his Egyptian counterpart Sameh Shoukry, Israel is announcing that it will implement a series of relief measures for the Gaza Strip. Egypt has been mediating talks in Cairo between Israel and Hamas since the end of the 11-day conflict in Gaza in May. The relief plan including expanding the coastal enclave's fishing zone from 9 to 12 nautical miles, as well as approving additional imports and exports with the territory. Further, the plan calls for Qatar to continue monthly payments into the Strip to the tune of $30 million each. That's $10 million towards fuel purchases, $10 million towards assistance for families through Gaza's Postal Bank, and the rest for funding a Cash for Work program.
As America abandons Afghanistan after 20 years of war and puts the onus of peace on Afghanistan's neighbors, Islamabad is looking to use its leverage over the Taliban to redraw the existing geopolitical dynamics. This includes limiting India's sphere of influence in Afghanistan and winning some concessions from the US for handling the mess after it leaves. But it doesn't take a genius to know what Islamabad's real intentions are. Officially, the Pakistani establishment says it is not in favor of Talibanization, that it won't let the Taliban be the dominant force in Afghanistan. But unofficially, the Pakistani state is letting hundreds of terrorists into Afghanistan. And if we needed any more proof of Pakistan's love affair with the Taliban, a funeral procession in Peshawar on Saturday night settled all doubts.
It started as a funeral procession. It ended up as a rally in support of the Taliban.